So welcome, and thank you for coming. Thank you to Roz and Anne and the rest of the PWRDF diocesan team from the Diocese of Montreal for putting on this webinar and launching their campaign. We have people registered from coast to coast to coast. Really glad you can be here. I'm going to say a special welcome to Bishop Mary, to Lisa Phillips, and to Will Postma, who will be sharing some remarks throughout the meeting. They will be formally introduced as they get to speak, so I will leave that to the folks from Montreal. During the meeting, we will have time for question and answers after the two presentations have taken place. I invite you to be welcome to type your questions into the chat as you have them, but we'll handle questions after Will and Lisa have spoken. And Patrick Stevens from the Diocese of Ottawa, I should say, is going to be helping to monitor those questions. If time allows, we may have a second question period after Roz and Bishop Mary make some remarks. And again, we will use the chat for that at this time. So again, welcome to everybody, and I hope you enjoy a time of fellowship and learning together as we learn about decolonizing fundraising. And I am just going to start by welcoming Lisa Phillips to start us off.
Yeah. So, Honda Ganjokwas with the Hunsios Kanigariwasa, a Honda Garibadekwa Gamona Hetstu. A Guagung Askan did the Wawet Nuni Ungwani Gorda Dano Deitini Waradune. Yatinista Dihunzade, Dano Deitini Waradune, a Gwe Ungwesu and Dihunzade. A Guagung Aska and did the Wawet Nuni Ngwani Gorda Dano Deitini Waradune, the Nekarunu Dano Kudzasuma. A Guagung Askan did the Wawet Nuni Ungwani Gorda Dano Deitini Waradune, Oderasum and Dano Nuquasum and Dano John Hekwa. Honeste was a header Dano on Ozara. Nona Angushnana, Nona Guadungayaks. A Guaguaskan did the Wawet Nuni Ngwani Gorda Dano Deitini Waradune, Odzinu Wasuma, Dano Deitini Waradune, Gahisu and Dano Gundirio. A Guaguaskan did the Wawet Nuni Ngwani Gorda Dano Deitini Waradune, Ogresu and Dano Odzida Angunga, Dano Ne Oni Ne Deitini Waradune, Odzida Angunga. Danu Garanios Wagatunde ne Chatawani Zerage. A Guaguaskan and did the Wawat Nuni Ngwani Gorda, Danu de Sidanu Waradune, Sungwazi Ajakaneka Garakwa, Gaeri Nikawarage, Danu ne Oni ne Radiweras. A Guaguaskan did the Wawat Nuni Ngwani Gorda, Danu de Tinu Waradune, Yumki Sota, Santaneka Garakwa. Yozi Stokwarini and Dana Detsidan Waradune, Sungwayadism, Danu Guagung Wayada Unzi Hunzade, Danu Guago Sagani Gorha. Danu Gaskanax ne Skana Gani Gario, Danu Gastansara ne Guagung, Danu Gaskanax ne Yatana Wahetkan, Danu Yodaxa Nayum Wadatne ne Guagung. Togadi Nayot Dunu Guani Gorda, To. Yawa. So that's it. So what I did was I just did our Honda Gari Wadekwa, which is our Thanksgiving address, which is what we do before we start anything. I do it every morning. Some people do it every morning as well. And what it is we just give thanks to everybody and to everything within the natural world. I started off with giving thanks to Mother Earth and to all of the people that are within Mother Earth. And then I went to giving thanks to the waters and to the fish. And then next I gave thanks to the grass and the roots and our medicines, as well as our three sisters, corn, squash, and beans. And I gave thanks to what's next, like on the ground, which is our, our insects, as well as our foods that we eat and the animals that help to feed us when we're hungry. And then next, I gave thanks to the trees and to the birds, and I gave thanks to the birds who I right now especially love every morning. I live in a very rural area, so I have a lot of bird feeders, and they bring me great joy for the beautiful songs that I hear them singing all the time. And then I gave thanks to our brother's son, to the four winds, the four directions of the winds, as well as the thunderers. And then I gave thanks to Grandmother Moon, and to the stars, and to our creator Sungwaya Dizum for everything that he has created here in this world, for helping us, and then also asking for peace, strength of mind, and strength, and that nothing bad or evil comes to any of us. And so that's what I said in my language in Mohawk. So thank you.
Thanks so much for offering that, and thank you so much for your explanation and sharing it and telling us what it was that you were sharing. Thank you so much. I'd like to now invite Bishop Mary Irwin Gibson, Bishop of the Diocese of Montreal, to welcome us.
Nyamagoa, Lisa. My name is Wadi Yunjats, and out of a sense of repentance for not even knowing how to say hello and goodbye in your language, when I moved here, I began to take Mohawk lessons, and have taken lessons with Kevin Deere, and I've taken them with Melvin Diabo, who is now with the Creator, and had various teachers, Aguirre Martin as well. So, and I'm still very poor at it, but I'm really happy to say Stana Goa and Nyama Goa for you joining us tonight. And to all of you, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Lisa is the executive director, and I think somebody's going to speak about what your work is. And I was attempting to pronounce all of what you were doing, except it's Ganyegahaga and how to hear Ungwa. Well, you're going to say it anyway properly. I'd like to learn the third word, because I've heard it before, but you obviously say it so much faster than we do. And it's my hope to learn to say it sometime. I think John is speaking a bit about your work. Isn't that right, Roz? Yeah. So welcome to Will Posma, who always loves to join us and drop into our events and support us and encourage us as active members of the Primates World Relief and Development Fund. So, and I want to thank Roz for, Roz is just like the Energizer Bunny. I've known her since I was a little girl, and since she was a young woman, and we went to the same church together. But Roz has a really fierce heart for justice, and that's really what brings us to tonight, to wanting to do things in a good way, on the good path, and find ways to live out our desire to live out reconciliation in a concrete way, and to learn a true respect of the First Nations, and a way of standing alongside you and learning about you, and helping you relearn in your communities what it is you want to learn again, to have your language back. I want to thank the members of PWRDF in Montreal for organizing this event, and this event, and the PWRDF in Toronto for all of their help in organizing it. And Kim, you're just one of those people who's there all the time, aren't you, helping make this happen? So thank you to Kim for your tremendous support in getting us here tonight to learn more about how we can decolonize our donations and make sure that our giving is not a sense of I'm better than you, but a sense of we stand alongside you in your goals, and it is our desire to lovingly walk with you in this, even though our pronunciation may never be as lovely as yours. I did pick up a lot of the words, and I was telling the people before you got here that when you got towards the end, you'd be saying Sungwayan Dizu, and which is the name of the Creator, the beautiful name. So You'll hear a bit more from me at the end. I think some of this is afterwards, isn't it, Roz? Right. They gave me a script, and I'm being a good girl.
A script you could bishopize, which is make it yours, which you're doing. Good.
Over to you, Kim.
Okay, well, thank you, Bishop Mary. Those are lovely words of welcome. And I think Taddy is going to share a bit of music and scripture with us.
We love you, we love you, we love
When I close my eyes, I am connected. I can hear the voices, they are highly respected, honoring their history. Their stories will not remain a mystery. Every choice, every idea we have, they stand behind us. They fought hard for freedom so we could have it our way. Let's make them proud, we are here to stay. Very few knowledge keepers here to teach. Not many left on this earth to preach. It's up to us to keep it going strong, so keep it going strong.
Please protect me, give me strength, fill me with your light and your defense. Let me hear your voice, I'll sing and dance. I will honor you the best I can.
Our hearts will continue beating. No longer will the voices of our ancestors stand alone, living, breathing beings. We will shake the walls of colonialism with our art, with our words, with our power. We are here, an Indigenous population alive and thriving. Creating our art to confuse, creating our art to confide, creating our art to confront, creating our art in new ways, in old ways, in a mix of ways. And if you are silent, you can hear our hearts beating. If you won't be silent, our hearts will continue beating.
Please protect me, give me strength, fill me with your light and your defense. Let me hear your voice, I'll sing and dance. I will honor you the best I can. Spirit fly, I miss you, I miss you. Spirit fly, I wish you were still here. Spirit fly, I miss you, I miss you. Spirit fly, I know that you're still here with me.
We now welcome Will Posmer, the Executive Director.
I'm afraid.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, we don't do perfect.
First, a reading from St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians from the First Nations version and Indigenous translation. There are different kinds of spiritual giftings, but they all come from the same spirit. There are also different ways of serving, but the example to serve comes from the same honored chief. The Creator's power works in different ways through different people, but it is the same Great Spirit who is at work in all of them.
One, two, one, two, one, two, one.
I'm very sorry. I'm trying to make this play and it's playing something else.
We love you. We love you. We love you.
And now, Anne.
We now welcome, a little more formally, Will Postma, the Executive Director of the Primates World Relief and Development Fund. He joined PWRDF in 2016. PWRDF, along with so many of us, works towards a world that is truly just, healthy, and at peace. Will's international experience includes years with Save the Children Fund, where he served as Director of Programs and then Vice President of Programs and Global Partnerships. He also worked for the World Vision Canada and with CARE International, managing programs and working with an excellent team of members and other consortia members invested in quality, health, education, and income generation programs. Will has learned so much from the time he spent, including with his family, from the people and partners in Mali, Niger, Bangladesh, and Tanzania. He's quite versatile. He's also published papers and other learning materials. He's on participatory development and capacity building and results-based management. He's carried out primary research on state and civil society dynamics in West Africa. And he has taught, led, and facilitated classwork in secondary school, college, and university settings, including most recently a course on community-based assessment and design at Wycliffe College within the University of Toronto. With PWRDF, Will has worked closely with Indigenous communities and leaders in Canada and increasingly across the Americas in support for Indigenous-led programs in safe water, climate action, community health, and midwifery, as well as youth engagement. And his current work with PWRDF is to support strategy and ensure oversight of operations, programs, and finance, so the organization can best deliver programs, support learning and process of localization, while also working closely with the supporters from all across Canada. Welcome, Will, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
And thank you for that incredibly generous introduction. And thank you so much. And I think you can hear me, right? I'll just go to a script that I have here as well. So Anne, thank you so much. A big thank you to Roz as well, and the PWRDF Diocese of Montreal Committee for the invitation to join you tonight, this evening. Kim, thank you for all you do in setting up webinars, including this tonight. A big thank you to Bishop Mary. Thank you for your always warm hospitality and ways of welcome. And I'm also here with another colleague, Anya. She's going to just help me with just moving some slides. So just acknowledging Anya as well. It's just so good to be with so many friends. So good to be with Lisa and colleagues. Yahweh, thank you. I'm speaking to you today from Georgetown, Ontario, in the Diocese of Niagara. I acknowledge that I live on the treaty lands of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nations. Treaty 19, one of the treaties here, it's also known as the Adjutant's Purchase. It was signed in October 1818 by representatives of the Crown and the Anishinaabe peoples. But I acknowledge that this treaty was signed under very unfair and tragic conditions in which the Mississauga were living at the time. I'm delighted to share with you an overview of our new Indigenous Responsive Programs grant that your diocese, the Diocese of Montreal, will be supporting. But before I do that, I need to just go back to the beginning of our Indigenous programs to paint the whole picture. Now, this is well before I joined PWRDF, as Anne mentioned, 6 years or so ago. So I've joined PWRDF knowing that so many people have contributed to this organization and our work. In 1993, then Primate Archbishop Michael Pearce made a landmark apology to the Indigenous peoples of Canada. And not only was it a starting point for reconciliation between the Anglican Church of Canada and the First Peoples of Turtle Island, it was also a moment that PWRDF realized we could support this work and that we could build tools to aid, contribute in reconciliation while also learning so very much. In 1996, PWRDF embarked on a series of visits and consultations to Indigenous communities to learn and to build relationships. Through this process, we determined that our Indigenous program would respond to the needs and priorities identified by Indigenous partners themselves and by the 1996 Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples report. So since then, PWRDF has supported more than 25 Indigenous partners, 25 partners across approximately 25 years, partners across Canada who have made a difference in their communities, and again, with whom we have learned so much. We've supported projects that reclaim language and culture, which we know is so critical to one's sense of identity and that we so grievously took away from Indigenous peoples who've been speaking these diverse languages on this land for thousands of years. We've funded partners who provide much needed capital and business support to entrepreneurs and small businesses looking to become self-sufficient and successful. Some of that work supported young people in setting up their businesses. We've supported a partnership between Indigenous midwives in Canada, Peru, and Mexico that promotes cross-cultural learning and the right to a cultural birth within one's own community. In 2012, PWRDF began walking alongside Pikangikum First Nation, a remote flying community in Northern Ontario that was plagued by youth suicide. The lack of clean water and sanitation inside homes, as well as boil water advisories, were identified by the band leadership as one of many things that needed to be addressed as a step towards better mental and physical health. Working with a retired engineer named Bob White, a group of concerned Anglicans formed to support clean water in Pikangikum. This group, known as the Living Waters Group or Pimatissa Wanipi in Cree, has helped raise more than $500,000 for Pikangikum from both Anglican and many, many non-Anglican donors as well. In all, 46 houses have been retrofitted with indoor plumbing, connected to water storage tanks that have been installed next to their homes, and many other water distribution points have been rehabilitated to support access to water and sanitation in other homes. All of this translates to a ripple effect of support for hundreds of people. Huge trucks come to deliver clean water into the tanks, and people are now able to turn on their taps inside their homes to access safe, clean water to bathe or drink or cook. With each phase, more and more young men and women from Pikangikum are learning trades like plumbing, carpentry, and electricity. And there has also been support to train youth, women and men, young women and young men in water quality management. Our partners have collaborated with and listened to the people from Pikangikum on the best way to access clean water. The third phase of the work was funded by the provincial and federal governments, in large part because our work had shown governments what could be done. And moreover, we've worked and we've learned together with the Band Council and people of Pikangikum and other churches and other supporters who want to support Indigenous communities and safe running water in homes. The work to retrofit homes continues, and we are connecting with the Band Council regularly as they complete a next phase, a fourth phase of this project. We're no longer accepting donations for Pikangikum because the fifth phase is proposed to go forward next year with existing funds that have already been donated to support Pikangikum. Some of you may remember or have been involved in the amazing advocacy campaign for clean water in Pikangikum led by PWRDF Montreal in 2018. You organized a walk and water blessing and advocated for more than a year for the right to clean water, raising awareness and funds for Pikangikum and clean water. Thank you. In supporting Indigenous partners such as Pikangikum First Nation, PWRDF has gained insight to the challenges facing Indigenous communities, the lack of infrastructure, the lack of trust in government, the outrageous cost of food. All who live across this land, Turtle Island, Canada, should have equal access to these basic human rights of water, health, and housing. In 2019, PWRDF created a 5-year strategic plan that identified reconciliation with Indigenous peoples as one of 5 key objectives or priorities. And to that end, a new Indigenous Program Advisory Committee was formed to work alongside the Board of Directors and work alongside our partnerships and programs team. 6 prominent Indigenous elders from across the country were brought together to advise PWRDF on how we could do more to listen and respond to priorities of Indigenous communities and organizations. Which brings me back to where we started, the Indigenous Responsive Programs Grant. With an initial commitment of $100,000 from our own budget, we invited Indigenous groups to submit proposals for funds supporting 4 areas: safe water, community health, youth engagement, and climate justice. And last fall, we also encouraged Anglicans to support the fund. The work has already begun. Indigenous Birth Alberta has received a grant to support Indigenous midwives in Edmonton with the Reverend Laurie Culkins, a Métis Anglican priest. In downtown Winnipeg, an organization called One Just City will use $10,000 to fund an elder in residence and a harm reduction outreach worker program. This will support community members who have experienced intergenerational trauma, who are survivors of residential or day schools, or who are coping with addiction. Another $10,000 has been allocated to the Highland Waters Métis Council of the Métis Nation of Ontario. And this group is working near Charbot Lake, east of Peterborough, to restore the connection between Indigenous food and farming practices to Indigenous culture and knowledge. Families will learn about land stewardship and how to protect the environment. And we're delighted to provide another $15,000 to the Ganawake Cultural Center in Ganawake, Quebec, in its work funding Mohawk language and culture reclamation. Ganyehe Kehehaka. If I'm pronouncing that right, the Mohawk language, what a beautiful language. KOR is a longtime partner of PWRDF, and we've learned so much from the work of CORE. And I've had the pleasure, I have to say, of visiting their office and meeting their staff. The staff, Lisa and others of her staff at the time, gave me such a warm welcome, and they showed me how they are teaching the Mohawk language through an award-winning puppet television show. And this is an international award, among many other awards that CORE has received for its puppet television show. And a really interesting thing is community members are the voices behind those puppets. This new funding that we are providing now is leveraging resources and interest for a refurbished cultural center and museum, one that will build even more pride in the community and awareness raising potential for settlers as well. You'll hear more about CORE later, but I want to say again how enthused I was by our visit, but also the program and also the vision that Lisa and her staff and community have for what comes next. The work of reconciliation is ongoing and painful. With the continuing discoveries in the past year of unmarked graves at Indian residential institutions, continuing even today, Canadians are hearing and accepting the truths that Indigenous peoples have been saying for decades. PWRDF strives to be part of the learning. The Mapping the Ground We Stand On exercise is being used in parishes across the country, both in person and virtually on Zoom, to help settlers better understand the legacy of colonialism in this country. At PWRDF, we wish to grow our contributions to reconciliation to support Indigenous communities and organizations and respond to their priorities. We want to contribute to decolonizing our fundraising and giving more agency to Indigenous communities as we learn together. The new fund is a small step towards decolonizing fundraising because it recognizes the insight of Indigenous organizations. The fund acknowledges that Indigenous communities have their own ways of caring for the land and caring for each other and draw on the wisdom of 7 generations who have gone before. It was so beautiful to hear Lisa just being so thankful for all that is around her, all of creation, all of animals that are around us. Yahweh. We acknowledge our contributions are small given the enormity of the needs, but in conversation and learning from and with Indigenous partners, we hope that the grants do make a difference, also in our ways of understanding and decision-making, and in our next strategy as well. I'm reminded of PWRDF's vision, our mandate to work towards a truly just, healthy, and peaceful world, and to learn from those with whom we work. It reminds me of this prayer from my colleagues in Indigenous ministries that I'd like to share in closing. Creator God, from you, every family in heaven and on earth takes its name. You have rooted and grounded us in your covenant love and empowered us by your Spirit to speak the truth in love and to walk in your way towards justice and wholeness. Mercifully grant that your people, journeying together in partnership, may be strengthened and guided to help one another to grow into the full stature of Christ, who is our light in our life. Amen. And Yahweh, Yahweh Goa.
Thank you, Will. And just a reminder, if you have questions, please do be welcome to put them into the chat, and we will get to those following Lisa's presentation. So I think, John, I'm going to introduce Lisa. Just need to unmute.
We can't hear you, John. On t'entend pas.
Roz, we might need to call on you.
I don't have the information. Can John hear us? John?
He was on the phone, I think.
Let me just. Just gonna copy this.
He's connecting to audio.
No, we can't hear you, John.
I can introduce myself.
I guess you better. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. Okay, so as Gwe, everyone. So my name is Gawanonoru Lisa Phillips. Gawanonoru means precious word, or yeah, precious word, which now I've come to think is an appropriate name for myself. I found my voice later on in life, and I've had to speak quite often on behalf of our organization, something that I've developed over the years, and I think I've become quite good at, which I never would have seen myself doing, especially in high school. I remember when I went to high school and I would have to publicly speak, my knees would knock, I'd say a lot, and I'd be shaking and I'd be red. I went to Trafalgar School for Girls in Montreal. That's where I went to school. And then I also went to Marianopolis. But it was more once I came back to the community. Well, I mean, I always lived in the community, but once I stayed in the community and started to work, that I really did find my voice. So I am the executive director of Ganyekahaga Ungwawana Rauti Jokwa Language and Cultural Center. And I've been working for the organization now for 22 years. And I have been the executive director for the past 3 years, but I was also interim executive director 3 times prior to that. I'm the oldest, longest standing employee there. So I've worked my way up the ladder, I guess, starting off as being the board secretary and just moving. And because I have a curiosity and I've always been the type of person to be in the background, helping everybody and getting things done. The staff naturally looked towards me as a leader. So once I've worked for 3 different executive directors, and I learned quite a lot working with the staff, and now I'm the executive director. One of our chiefs calls me the unwilling executive director, because in reality, I did not want to be in that position. And but I took it just for the sake of the organization and of my staff and the work that we do, to just continue moving forward and doing the work that we do, because that's where my heart belongs. So I want to thank you, all of you, for having me here, having me speak. I believe, if I can recollect correctly, that Jose Zarate asked me if I would be willing to do this. I've known Jose for, I can't even think of how many years, but it's 10 plus for sure that we've had this relationship with Jose and PWRDF. And we're very thankful for the funding that we do receive from them. That helps us with a number of activities that we do. So that's myself. I'm a Ganekahaga, which is a Mohawk woman. I'm from the Bear Clan. And I have 3 daughters, and I have one beautiful granddaughter who will be 3 in a couple of weeks. So I come from a very strong matrilineal line, which is what we follow within my culture. We're matrilineal, and I do come from a very strong matrilineal family. And I guess that could be shown also by the fact that I have 3 daughters and a very strong-willed granddaughter in my life. And I stayed in my education, but I also just recently finished school with McGill University, and I'm going to be graduating in 2 weeks, my ceremony, but I just completed a certificate in public administration and governance, which will help me with my job as well. So just to help me strengthen my skills. So I want to thank you for having me here tonight, all of you. I've been in contact with quite a number of you, and especially Rosalind. So I want to thank you so much. And Will, he did come to our community. He did see the building that we do that work in, which is not a beautiful site. But again, as I always tell our visitors, the heart of the organization is in the work that we do, not the building that we live in. But luckily we've moved since. So that's my introduction. And I want to thank you again, and Nyawa. So I believe, is this where I do my presentation? Okay, so I'm here to give a presentation on the work that we do. I did do a slideshow which will show the work that we receive funding for from PWRDF. And as Will stated, it's in language reclamation. The organization that I work for is, well, wait, let me just share my screen. Hopefully I'm going to be able to do this. Why is it telling me that? Hold on one sec. Okay. Share. Can you all see that? Yes? Okay, let me just make it so that you just can see that, if that's possible. I think it's on the bottom, right? Okay, no, I don't want to mess anything up.
Well, you've got a view at the top there, along the top. I think if you view, probably you can get into the whole. See the lines? Yeah, go to the far right.
Okay, view. And then an outline view? Or slideshow, sort of. No.
Slideshows. I don't know the answer. I beg your pardon.
It's okay, thank you.
I'm an active experimenter. I just do stuff.
Okay, oh wait, maybe here's slideshow. From beginning, hopefully. There,
yeah.
better?
Nice.
Okay, so this is our logo, and what I'm going to talk about is the programming that benefits from the funds from PWRDF and funders such as yourself. So our core programs that we receive funding for and utilize are our Ganyageha Radiwana Nirdat's Adult Language Immersion Program, our Dudadanuwagwari Puppet Show, and then public programming, which is held annually, and it's cultural programming. So for the Ganyageha Radiwana Nirdat's, I'll go into more depth as we go along. But additionally, other programming that KOR does is we have a photo archives department. We have the Ganyageha Radio Show and Auto Archives. And we have a library, a specialized library, and a museum. Okay. So our Ganyageha Radiwana Nirdat's program, this is our logo for that. It's an adult immersion program. It's a 2-year program. Originally, it started as a teaching literacy certificate in collaboration with McGill University. and it was a one-year program. And then it continued on for a number of years as a one-year program. And then 2008, we switched it to a two-year program because we noticed that towards the end of the first year, students were really just starting to hit their stride in the language and feeling more comfortable with it. So we added on a second year, and since then we've had a two-year program. About 5 years ago, we added another cohort. So we have a staggered classroom. So in 1 year, we'll have year one students and then year two students. So we've been able to add 16 more students to the program, being able in a year to have 32 students. It's 36 weeks per year, and it runs Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And generally our class usually is about 16. Here it says 15 to 18, but a normal average class size is 16 students. So we are entering, our Ganyekeha Raduana program is entering into its 20th year. The first class that I told you about in collaboration with McGill University was in 2002. So we are going into our 20th year of this program. We have graduated with over 170 students, much closer to 200, many of whom are now employed throughout the community of Kahanawake. And they work in such fields such as radio, the television and communications, amongst many of the different organizations that we have in the community. And also they go into either be teachers or teachers' assistants in some form of education. What happens, one of our challenges is when we are putting on the class, is that once they start to learn the language, people are trying to get them already. And then I have to talk to them and say, please, can you just leave them alone for the 2 years? 2 years goes very fast. Let them finish their 2 years, let them get their language proficiency up, and then you can take them then, but let them be. So that's been one of our things. In terms of teachers, what happened, why the program started in 2002 was because most of our teachers, the average age of our teachers was 50 and 50 plus. We had teachers who were 60s, 70s who were teaching because they're our first language speakers, our elders. And so many of them were still working well into their 70s. So we had to address succession planning and the very dire need of being able to produce speakers in order to be able to become teachers and to continue teaching the language to the community. In our community, we have our Ganawage Education Center, who has 3 schools within its control. One is an English school that offers French and Ganyekeha as is a, I guess what would be the word, like a core course, a subject matter course. It's not an immersion. And then we have one school that is immersion in Ganyekeha. And then we have a high school where, again, French and Mohawk are learned as subject matter. So the need for our teachers is great. And we're still in that position of having to train people in the language, have them learn the language, and then also going back into the schools. So actually, this picture, I didn't put it in here. I had somebody do this for me, but this is me, if you can see me. Right here, I'm circling it with the mouse. Second from the top row, second from the left. I was actually in the program. I'm a graduate of the program. But when I did it in 2005, it was a one-year program. So I ended up leaving there. I started with nothing, absolutely nothing, because I went to school in my time. Mohawk was just a subject matter course. And then, like I said, I left the community to go to school daily, to go to Trafalgar and then Marianopolis. So I didn't learn Mohawk. So I really went in with nothing. I didn't know colors, nothing. I just knew numbers and that was it. So when I left there, I was a novice high. So we utilized the ACTIFIL, which is the American Council for Teaching Foreign Languages. We use the ACTIFIL mode of determining levels of proficiency, and it'll go from novice, intermediate to advanced. So I reached novice within novice high, because then it goes novice, low, mid, high, intermediate, low, mid, high, and then advanced the same onwards. So I was able to go from nothing in 1 year to a novice high, just short of getting into intermediate. Now with the 2-year program, we're producing students who are leaving with an intermediate, high, and even into the advanced level of proficiency. So for a 2-year program, our program is extremely successful. We're able in a short period of time to take students you know, from very little proficiency to a very high level of proficiency. Our program is not accredited, and that's due to a number of reasons, where of course, autonomy is the main one, where we want to be able to have control over the program, over the teaching, over the curriculum. We don't want to lose, you know, the control over that. We have had numerous talks, and one of them, of course, too, one of the biggest concerns is that sometimes our teachers are actually not teachers. They may not have teaching certificates, but that doesn't mean that they're not teachers and that they're not good at the job. So you know, it's hard to find people or institutions that will recognize the skill set, you know, of the people that we choose to teach the language. So that's improving, of course, though, and maybe in the coming years, we'll be able to bring some accreditation to the program. But besides that, or aside from that, we're still doing quite well. We're the #1 language immersion program for the language of Mohawk. And we have many different communities, our sister communities, who come to us asking for curriculum, asking for help, trying to poach our teachers because we do have the best teachers. And so that's our program. And we're quite proud of that. It's one of our main recognizable programs that we have. We just finished a application selection process for the new cohort that will be coming in September. And we always have more applicants than we have spots for. So that entire process is quite difficult for us, you know, and being able to choose who's going to be able to learn the language. Even with 2 classes going at the same time, it's still, we're not meeting the demand. So the goals of our program, which is the Ganigaha Radiwanirdat's Adult Language Immersion Program, is to provide a creative, engaging, and culturally rich experience, fostering the continuous advancement of spoken language proficiency, and to empower the community to participate and contribute to the maintenance and vitality of Ungwehuweneha, which is another way of saying our language, our original language. So the primary objectives are to provide adult language learners the opportunity to exceptionally increase their spoken language proficiency through a variety of teaching methods and practical applications, and to foster an increased understanding and knowledge of traditional Kanien'kehá:ka cultural teachings and arts delivered in the context of language learning. So this is a man who teaches. He's here, what he's doing is he's pounding logs, and then he's going to use the horse here. He's going to put the strips on here, and we're going to clean from the log. We're going to get strips, and then we'll be able to make baskets. Right here, the man with the green hat, his name is Leo Daibo. He's one of our elders who works for us on a weekly basis, and he does our All Kanien'kehá:ka radio show. And he's well into his 80s now, and he's still working for us. So we're going to have to actually start thinking succession planning there as well. And then also to increase students' linguistic and literacy skills by teaching Kanien'kehá:ka grammatical structures and Kanien'kehá:ka orthography. So the program has developed much since 2002. And we've added the Kanien'kehá:ka grammatical structures and orthography as part of our program. And since we've added that, that's the success where the students are really, really learning much and increasing their proficiency within the 2 years. And I just have to say, Bishop Wardy had mentioned some of the speakers she's worked with, and Aguirre Deca Martin was one of our teachers. He was actually one of my teachers, and he's a linguist. He has his bachelor in linguistics. And him, along with Gatarduni Stacy, who now is working on her PhD in language revitalization, they're the ones who brought in the grammatical structures and the orthography that increased exponentially the curriculum for the program. And then here, of course, one of the main objectives is to increase the capacity of highly proficient Kanien'kehá:ka speakers in Kahnawake. And that would be, of course, with, you know, the goal of creating more speakers and keeping the language alive within the community. And we need them, as I said, I'm trying to hang on to them in the schools, not to steal them while they're in the program. So our course objectives are to provide the students with a creative, engaging, and culturally rich syllabus consisting of hands-on student relevant daily activities, neha experiences, and grammar lessons, which are all geared toward fostering the continuous advancement of spoken language proficiency in a safe and supportive environment. Upon completion, students will have acquired the following: an increased oral proficiency of 3 levels or higher than their initial individual OPI assessment. So like I had explained earlier, I came in, I was non-rateable, meaning I wasn't even on the scale. And then I ended up increasing by 3 levels, where I ended up leaving the program with a novice high proficiency. And since then I've been assessed again because I work in a language environment, and now I'm in intermediate low without studying, you know, like continuously studying, just hearing it and working with it within work. So an increased knowledge of traditional cultural teachings, history, and art, and an advanced knowledge of the grammatical structures, i.e. syntax, morphology, and phonology. Our program, we're always looking to utilize best practices and to be always in the know about the latest methods and what works the best. So our total immersion is in the target language, which is Kanien'kehá:ka or Ungwehueneha, and performance-based curriculum, which reflects the active fill proficiency benchmarks that I spoke about. We also use another method, which is called ASLA, which is Accelerated Second Language Acquisition. We utilized that when I was in the program, and it really helped me very, very much. And then grammar. And so it's instructor-led presentations, practical hands-on exercises, and out-of-class activities, which are structured to give students the opportunity to put into practice the acquired language covered during the sessions. And it accommodates various learning styles through both traditional language learning methods as well as new and emerging second language learning acquisition methodologies. We have students, because it's adult, so we have students anywhere, the age range is 17 to it could be 60. So we have a large range of ages of students, but we also have a large range of different proficiency levels of them coming in, as well as different learning styles within the program. So the other programming that PWRDF helps fund is Duda Danawagwardi, our language puppet show. We did we did a career organizational fair within our community quite a number of years ago. And when people would come to our table, I would say, well, we're the cultural center. Do you know what we do? And they said, no. And I said, well, do you know Kanien'kehá:ka? Oh yeah. Do you know Duda Danawagwardi? Yep. So these 2 programs, our language program and Duda Danawagwardi, the puppet show, are our 2 most identifiable programs within the community. They're highly identifiable. We have a community parade. We have life-size now costumes of, this is Duda, which is a grandmother, and Ogwardi, which means bear, is her grandson. We have life-size costumes, and then they go in our parade, and oh my God, the children all lose their minds. Duda, and they come and they want to run in and have their picture taken with them. So this is a television, print, and radio program in our language featuring puppets as characters. And the characters, topics, special segments, and dialogues are all designed to promote the language, the culture, the values, and the health and the well-being of the Kanien'kehá:ka people. The show revolves around Duda, as I said, grandma, a grandmother who has a wealth of knowledge of Kanien'kehá:ka ways, and her grandson, Ogwardi, who is imaginative, curious, and active. And Duda Danawagwardi has over 18 seasons. Presently, we're now working on the 19th season. So special segments include interactions with and discussions about some of the precious wildlife existing in Kahnawake, promoting healthy families and mental well-being. The show is broadcast on the local cable network in Kahnawake, and it is streamed on our YouTube channel, and the characters appear on a weekly radio program, Dodantne Wage, which means to Duda's house I'm going, on K103 FM, which is our community radio, and during a specific season, which is also streamed worldwide on their website, on the radio station website. Also, this is new. What we've been working on is we've been creating books of legends, and the end of the characters are printed and distributed to various organizations and schools throughout the community. And then again, the new life-size mascot of a cultural figure is created for community events. So they're extremely, extremely popular. It's all in the language. It's geared for young children, of course, from like 2 years and up. But then once you engage with the children, then you're engaging with the family. So even adults love the Dodanawoguardi if they're just starting to learn the language. And it's done in collaboration. We do partnerships with the environment, community health, protection initiative, promotion initiative, because all of our topics covered are done culturally, but looking at environment and health, healthy living. So we're very, very proud of our Duda Danawoguardi. And actually, I'm Duda. My granddaughter calls me Duda. And I'm very, very proud to be a Duda. So the objectives of Duda Danawoguardi are promoting and fostering proficiency in literary abilities in children and our Mohawk children, to address health issues from the community health assessment, and mental illness and chronic disease, which affects our community. Most of all, diabetes, and to increase collective pride in our culture, history, and identity, which is a protective factor for natives against depression and suicide, and to provide an outlet for many Ganawage Ronu, which means people of Kahnawake, and beyond, to become an engaged part of this program as artists and Yakahaga speakers, elder consultants, translators, puppet builders, layout designer, audio and visual technicians, production management, and writers. So as Will said, all of the voices of our puppets, and we have many, many puppets, are voices from within the community. We use a lot of times, we utilize the students of our Ganyagehalradiguananirat's adult immersion program to do the voicing or to help with the puppeting. We even had a workshop where we had youth within the community who were the script writers, and sometimes the voice. I have 3 daughters, as I mentioned in my initial introduction, and 2 of them were also featured within the show. So maybe I could get my granddaughter in there next. But we also use elders. Anybody that's interested in language or is learning to speak or is speaking, we use them. Not just as voicing and puppets, but maybe as script writers to give us ideas. And we're constantly doing consultations within the community to get feedback on the type of things that they would like, and maybe the topics that they would like us to see. So now we've gone into branching into having children's books. One was Gadzosun'a, which I mentioned in my Ohandagari Wadekwa, which is our fish, and then Gundirio, which is our animals, and the ones that are indigenous to our community. So those are the things we're working on, and we're utilizing Duda Danawoguardi because, again, it's a brand that everybody in our community and in our sister communities knows for language promotion. Where's my mouse? So I'm going to try this, and let's hope I have some success. I just want to show you real quick. Let me stop the share and let me go here for a minute. And I believe it's here. Oh, I think this was the one that was sent to me. So this is not the one I wanted. Or maybe I could just show you real quick. This is our old, can you see this?
Not yet, you have to share again.
Oh, I have to share again. Okay, oh, hold on. I'm not very proficient at this. Just give me a second. There we go. So I can't remember who it was that sent this to me. They just had sent it yesterday. And this is our old building. It's very decrepit. We're moving. We have moved, and we were just lucky that I've been working for like 7 years on trying to get us a new building. And we just were the lucky recipients of some funding very large funding, capital funding for our new building, to go towards our new building. And what we utilized for that was federally funded funding envelope, cultural spaces in Indigenous communities. Right now we're in a temporary location, but this was the day we left. So you'll see, this is our Duda, and that's, her name is Gungwadzi Zawi, and this is Guanaho, who developed the idea. So she's Ogwardi, and this is Duda, and all I'm here. This is our staff. So when we left, this was our idea. Can you hear it? So the work actually began at 9 a.m. The movers have been here. I don't want to do this part. You don't need to see me. You hear enough of me. Hold on. So this is our site. But when I had come up with this idea, and the MCK communications helped us with it, and I loved it. And I think some of you will know when you hear the music, the idea, where it comes from. But let me just, our students. Oh, I started to cry here. For their support. I see the post. I made a post this morning, and everybody loves that we're moving. The comments, it's about time. Everybody's aware that, this was necessary and deserving. So, yeah, we'll go up. This ending I love. So that's the Dono Guardi leaving. So this is our new temporary location. And when they were filming it, our chiefs were upstairs watching. They were like, what is going on? Anyway, I absolutely love this. I cried my eyes out when I did the interview, because I was just looking forward and I wasn't looking back, from us leaving that decrepit old building where we were fighting with squirrels on the daily. And it was really bad. That building, it was close to 60 years old. I went to school there for nursery and kindergarten, and that was actually the site of one of our Indian day schools. We hear a lot about residential schools, but there's also Indian day schools, and I'm a student of that. And that was one of the schools. So, but when they asked me, what would be my takeaway from there, my fondest memory, I didn't expect I just burst into tears, because our radio show, we do it weekly with Joe and Leo that I showed you, Leo, but we also do it twice a year, and we do a Christmas show, and we do a show in April when we do Cultural Awareness Month. And we have our elders as our hosts, but we'll have school-age children, speakers come in and do different things. And in my 21 years there, we put on a lot of shows. And a lot of our elders are gone now, as again, Bishop Gordy had mentioned, Melvin Daibo Degahuazerde. He was one of my constant elders that was about, and he was one of, I don't want to cry. Anyway, I knew him forever, and yeah, I'm crying. Anyway, he was like, I knew if I called him, I could count on him, and he was always there, and he came and he helped and he hosted. And there's just so many others, elders, that I've worked with, and now they're gone. And that every time we lose an elder, we lose a first language speaker. And I've seen us lose many over the years in my 22 years working there. So like I said, I was looking forward, not looking back. But when they asked me that question, it just boom, it hit me, and the tears started to flow because of that memory. All those memories we're going to take from that building of the language and the fun and the laughter. And I'm not completely fluent in the language, and I don't have 100% comprehension. And I wish I did though sometimes, because one thing, if you ever happen to have the opportunity to sit with a bunch of fluent speakers, well, now my nose is running, I'm sorry, that's from crying, is that they laugh and they laugh and they laugh. So that's what I'm taking away, is all of that love and that laughter. and pride in the language. So I just wanted to share that with you. So that's the Danawagwardi. And if I can, I don't know what happened because I had it hold on, I'll stop the share. I know we're on a time thing right here too as well. Let me get back to my slide and I'll go through it real quick. Okay, so this was what I wanted to get on, if I can. Can you see that coming up? Sorry. Can you see this?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so I guess I have to wait, stop share. Hold on.
When you're going to share, if you can press the optimize sound button at the bottom of the.
Whoops, no, I think I lost you guys. Oh wait, I think I lost you.
Oh,
No, we're here.
we could hear music.
Oh, you
So-
can? Okay, hold on then. I'm just a little messed up.
Up on your screen, Lisa, then press share screen. There you go.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so here, I'll just share it real quick, okay? So this is our show. Am I not hearing music now?
No, you have to press optimize sound when you share.
Oh, here we go. So you see PWRDF, it's one of our contributors. So so that's the intro song. And it's just so amazing, the different things that they do. You know, they have so many different. So we have all different, you know, still look like here we'll have a story. So explaining. And then I believe here we have a legend. Oh, this character is actually one of our past graduates they made a puppet out of him. So we do that sometimes. He's our chef, teaching cooking and showing us about fishing. The different types of fish. So he's one of our past graduates. He's doing a cooking class. This is Dita. This is another student, the cousin of Ogwardi. And then here we have a legend. So these are types of things that we have. You can always, you know, go on to YouTube and then you can find the Ogwardi and then you can look. So we can still see this. Okay, so I'm going to end off here. These are just other public programming that we do, but everything is within the language. We have Dede Wajirunio, which is we do it once a year, but we haven't been able to because of COVID the past 2 years, but it's a all Ganyegeha variety show. So all the school kids, anybody learning language, they come, they do skits in the language, sing songs. We even have language learning groups from Taindanega, Six Nations, Oswego, who come, Wata, they come to put on acts. So it's a good activity, you know, where we get to share with other communities. And then our Cultural Awareness Month, which is every month, every April, and we do a whole host of activities that help. That's where some PWRDF funding goes through. And then our Wata and Rotiyatne radio shows, which is the Christmas and Maple. We have a language gathering curriculum sale. When Powwow Weekend happens, which is going to be happening this year after 2 years missed, KOR puts on the Friday night traditional social because powwows are not traditional to us. So to add that authentic content For the Mohawks, we host the Friday night traditional social. And then Guanahu, who is the director of the Danawagwari, she also puts on the Eastern Connection Film Festival. So we do a host of different language classes, beadwork classes, conversational classes, different crafts for craft making. We do a lot of things. And then this is just a calendar for our Cultural Awareness Month. This picture here that you'll see with all the elders sitting around, and you'll see that's the Christmas radio show that I spoke of. If I look right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of our elders in that picture are gone now. 7 of these elders that I've worked with. And I believe this will be in our community classes and our different programming, photo archives. So we still have so much that we do within the organization. Here's our Joe Danulio, and again, our elders, Billy Two Rivers. I don't know if anybody ever heard of him. He's one of our elders who always came to do the radio shows, loved it. Our library and our museum, and different initiatives that we have going on. We just hosted an exhibit, and that would be it. So I know I took up a lot of time. I tend to do that because I get too excited and passionate about the work that we do. And I also have to plug in my laptop because it's flashing.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That was amazing. What a wonderful description of all of your programming, and you know, it was worth the time. I think it was wonderful.
Thank you.
Love the puppet show. Love that. If you would like, maybe we can link to the YouTube videos in the recording when I send it out.
Yeah.
And I just want to apologize also. I think I might have been disruptive. I'm having issues with my mute button, but we do have, we'll make time for a couple of questions. I think, Patrick, there might be.
Yes, I'm keeping an eye on the comments here, the chat box. First off, there's a comment. Dave says, "Thank you, Will. We are awaiting the dates for EBS Pikanjikam grade 8 grads visit to Toronto." And then, sorry, Will, did you want to comment?
Just to say, fantastic exchange work that people like Dave Gordon facilitate between youth in Pikanjikam and elsewhere, such as what Dave is doing in Toronto. We're really grateful.
Okay, and then Mary says, "Hello from Winnipeg. I am wondering how PWRDF intersects with the Anglican Healing Fund. Are you working in tandem, cooperating?"
Yeah, we do a lot of collaboration. That's a great question. With Martha Many Grey Horses, she's the new head. We worked a lot with Esther Wesley, who was heading up the Healing Fund earlier. And Martha and I, we just actually spoke a few weeks ago about maybe collaborating on a few projects in the North. So opportunities are there for us to do even more together.
Okay, great. And then there are a couple of questions for Lisa here. So this one's from Stephanie asking, is grammar taught in English or in Ghanaian Geha in the adult immersion program? Also, how do you deal with the different levels of proficiency in the class?
Okay, no, grammar is taught completely in Ganyakeha in Mohawk because it's a language immersion program. The only English that is heard in the class is the first 2 or 3 days of orientation, where we really bring in a lot of speakers to come and talk to our students, past graduates, people who like Agurda Deka or Gataruni, who are working in language revitalization, to speak to the students, to tell them, to give them a very clear, accurate picture of what they're going to go through the next 2 years in the program. The program is life-changing for many people who come into it because of the tie between the cultural and the language components. So we go to the Ganusesne, which is our longhouse. They participate in ceremony. Once they begin to be able to learn the language and be able to have an understanding, a whole different world opens up for them. And this I'm speaking from experience because I am a graduate. it's life-changing. We've had many people come in. So, you know, in terms of, you know, we're looking at reconciliation and what the biggest issues are, and a lot of it is about identity and having that tied to your language and your culture. And our program addresses both. It's just life-changing. So, but they have to have a reality check about what they're about to embark on, because it can get to be very hard. It's an extremely hard program. You have to change your way of thinking. And I remember the first night I actually dreamt in the language. There's just different things, and people come in and they say, I'm going to leave fluent. You're not going to leave fluent. That's not the reality. So we have to explain that to them too, talking about ACTFL and OPI, which is oral proficiency, and explaining the different levels and what exactly it is that they're going to, how it is going to work. And of course, the biggest thing, our program gives them the tools, but their success depends on them and what they're willing to put in in those hours in the classroom, but more importantly, what they're willing to put in outside of the program. And it's not just what you're going to learn in 2 years, it becomes lifelong learning. So for the different proficiency levels, again, part of that is that how we address that is we do have a curriculum, and we start from the very, very beginning. And some students who may have come in with a bit of knowledge of the language are just going to have to be patient, and they're going to have to wait. One thing we explain to them, though, a lot of times, and what I witnessed, because when I went into the program and had zero language, and I had some who had some, I was the one that had the easier time in the program because I was a clean slate. So I was learning, and a lot of those who have language have to unlearn certain things because maybe they didn't, you know, they might have been making some mistakes, or maybe they you know, there could be mistakes. So they basically have to unlearn and learn. And everybody within that 2-year program does come to a point where they don't know anything. So I think people have to put their ego aside, be very patient, and just learn, you know, and enjoy that experience. So that's how we deal with it. But also at the beginning, what we do is we give the students a learning contract, because everybody's coming in with a different goal. So they have to work towards their goal. So that's individual, right? It's subjective and it's individual. So where one person will come in with a different goal, you know, and people leave with different successes, different levels of success. So the learning is actually individual. So that's how we deal with it.
Thank you, Lisa. I have one question that's been sent to me directly, Patrick, and I think that's probably it for questions. But Janet asks, how are PWRDF's programs being decolonized? And Will, I'm going to leave that with you. But while you think about the answer to that question, Janet also wanted to say congratulations on your graduation, Lisa.
Oh, thank you.
I think that's what you wanted. So, and then if I know we'll be running a little bit over time, so we'll take this one question, and then we'll invite Roz to say.
If I may interrupt, I just want to say there's one more question waiting in the chat box as well. So if we could get to that, then I think we'll be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Will.
You have to
unmute, Will.
We have always sought to learn from Indigenous leaders, you know, people like Lisa. So 2 things that we have done differently. We do have an advisory committee of our programs of Indigenous elders. Some are coming from within an Anglican tradition, others not. It's a cross-representation. We hope to grow that committee in terms of importance as well in helping us go forward. And secondly, our application process for support for Indigenous organizations is much more simplified. There are some broad categories, but we want to make that as easy as possible, as accessible as possible, so that we can fund as quickly as possible as per priorities that are identified, including, as Lisa mentioned, within core. And now we have 5 or 6. There's another group, Mi'kmaq people, Lisa, you may know, they've also just submitted a really interesting program that we can support And it's their priority. We want to be part of their going forward to develop a new cultural center in their area as well. So we just want to be ensure we have simple and accessible forms that can support, walk alongside, come alongside of Indigenous communities. So, and then maybe thirdly is to grow our program. We want to make sure we have more funds, but also a higher percentage of our budget in support of Indigenous communities and organizations. Thanks for that question, Janet.
And Susan asks Lisa, where does the bulk of your funding come from?
Okay, well, the bulk of my funding, I would say, comes from our band council. And we have a number of different funding that we receive, funding revenue, but everything's always proposal based. So I'm constantly writing different proposals. I just finished one, but the biggest funder is our band council, and we're very fortunate in that we do have the support of our band council, because when I speak to other communities, they don't, and that can be a hindrance for sure. So we do have that, and then I apply to Indigenous Services Canada for their Indigenous languages component. That's a big funder. But our main funders, would be Band Council, or our consistent funders, Indigenous language component, PWRDF. For Dudadunawagwari, we have CHPI, which is Community Health Prevention Initiative, because all of our programming is done with healthy lifestyles and health. And I'm trying to think if that's it. Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, maybe others, but those are the bulk of our funding. But everything's proposal based. And then AANDC too. I get some money from them. But unfortunately, the reality is, other than the band council, our funding keeps getting reduced every year. So that's a struggle for us for sure. All of our staff wear multiple hats and do multiple jobs, and we have a very dedicated staff, but being nonprofit, our salaries, of course, are extremely, extremely low. The average salary for our employees is $600 a week, with people with families. And so it's very, very hard. And I'm thankful and grateful that they're committed to the work, because they're not there for the money for sure. We're all there because it's what we believe. We work very hard for our language and our culture. So thank you. And thank you to Patrick for the comment.
Thanks, Patrick, for kind of looking out for the chat. And I think Roz, if
yes, okay.
Yep.
So this part is called Call to Action, but I want to say a huge thank you to everybody, but to two people, and one is Kim, and the other is Ann Komen, and have made all the difference in pulling this together. Thank you. So about 7 years ago, we began to rally around having an annual diocesan PWRDF project that would create an opportunity for education and fundraising and bring us together with a common goal. We held water walks in LaSalle and another in Bedford to support improved access to clean water in Pekanjikum. We raised awareness and funds for All Mothers and Children Count in Africa. We've learned together, and the generosity is incredible of folks in our diocese has been overwhelming and inspiring. And what we've done is really good. But there's an African proverb, the hand that gives is always higher than the hand that receives. So when we raised funds for Pekanjikum, we knew where our donations were going, and it gave us a kind of paternalistic pride, but as we've grown more aware of the effects of colonization, we're choosing not to be the decision makers of what Indigenous communities need. And this year, PWRDF Montreal has chosen to donate to the Indigenous Responsive Program grants, and we won't know precisely where our donations will go. So we don't get the kind of satisfaction that you can get from choosing somewhere, but we will know we're doing the right thing. So our diocesan project, Decolonizing Fundraising, will continue through 2022. And we're encouraging individuals, not just in Montreal, of course, but we're encouraging individuals, churches, and communities to donate. You could hold a bake sale, donate a portion of money raised at a bazaar, create a Sunday school project in Advent, whatever works for you. And thank you from PWRDF Montreal and the hard workers there. Donations may be made online, by phone to the PWRDF office, or by check. Just please let them know you're donating to the Diocese of Montreal's Decolonizing Fundraising campaign so that we can track our results. And Kim's putting the link to donate in the chat, and she'll send it out along with the recording. And if you have any questions, you can please let me know. And thank you all for being here. It's great. And now Bishop Mary is going to say something.
It's been a delight to be here, and it's brought back such happy memories of the time that I was working in trying to learn a few words in Ganyegeha to express my respect for our neighbors here, and just how hard that work is. I went once a week on an evening at the end of the day, and I barely scratched the surface. And yet I was so proud to be able to greet people and say, you know, my name and this is what I am. You might be interested to know that the word for bishop, I was told, is Ariwawagu. And if you want to say the word for the Pope, it's Ariwawagu Goa. That's like the big bishop. But when I go to speak to people, and I have occasionally tried to say something, what I realize is some of them are very embarrassed because they have even less Mohawk than I have. And it's such a great grief to them to not know their own language, to not be able to speak to their elders out of respect in their language, to maybe know only a few words. When Lisa was saying this and Dano means and so, you know, I can pick up words here and there and go, oh yeah, I know that's like a connecting word, and I sort of know what that word is, and it must be. But this is the situation for many of the people, the Ganyegehaga, who just have lost their language. They didn't get it. Their families went to residential schools. They can't speak to each other in their language. And so I'm just in awe of the program you have, and so grateful to be able to hear you speak of it tonight. I want to thank the Diocese of Montreal Primates World Relief and Development Fund group, because they really do meet regularly and work hard together. I forgot to thank Anne, who is the co-chair, along with Roz. And Anne and I have known each other for many, many years, not quite as long as I've known Roz. And thank you, Anne's a former teacher and has a great heart for sharing knowledge. So hello to all the friends across Canada who are part of this tonight. I've seen some of you, Catherine in Kingston, I think, and others. It's really good to see you. We are all really committed to helping communicate the work of PWRDF, but also to help our Indigenous friends and neighbors in growing in their ability to communicate. And so do invite you all to be as generous as you can in supporting the Indigenous Responsive Program grants. And we all may want to feel like we're in control of our lives, but we're not. And some of us have language because of the luck of the draw. And others have not got language, again, because of the bad luck of the draw. So we acknowledge in taking part in this initiative that Indigenous people know what they need and how they want to go about doing it. And that part of the healing and the regrowth is there being having agency to make it happen, and for our stepping out of the way. I honor the Primates World Relief and Development Fund work, which over the years I have come to understand doesn't simply say, here we are, we know the answer, this is what we're going to do for you, but to say, let us come alongside what you're trying to do. Let us support you in what you're trying to do. What resources do you need for this sort of thing? So that the people who receive the help of the Primates World Relief and Development Fund are the people who understand what their need is and have the agency to enact it. So we will be supporting, we do encourage you to support it. And of course, if I'm going to say, if God calls you to support something else that the Primates Fund is doing, you just go right ahead and listen to the voice of the one who's called you. So Nyawagoa, Lisa, it's been a real honor to know you, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Yawa. Can I just say a few words just in closing? Because usually when you open, you close.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
I just want to be accurate. Okay. So ganjukwa se wadonhisios ganigari wasa handagari wadekwa gawana hetstu. Agwego aska did what nuni dano deitini waradu ne agwedi yetini stahazi unzade dano deitini waradu ne sungwaya dizum. No, deitini waradu ne yunki sota santaneka garakwa dano yodzi stokorunio dano detsa dino waradu ne sungwaya dizum dano agwego waya da unzi hunzade dano Dewagade Hunzoni a Girdun Yawagoa, Neo Guegun Gonto, Danu de Tinwaradu, wait. Dewagade Hunzoni a Girdun, ne Gaskanax, ne Agwe, ne Yoyonade, Yoyonaraje, Nona. Sada Dandi Unwa. Togadi Nayoto Nugwani Gorda to.
Thank you. So I think we're finishing with music. Taddy, do we have time for that?
You know what? I think we're kind of finished the formal part. Taddy, I think if you want to share to send us off, and maybe we'll just leave as with the music playing. If that's okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming.